On the outside rim of a circular disk, the integers from 1 through 30 are painted in random order. Show that no matter what this order is, there must be 3 successive integers whose sum is at least 45. Now, if you look at the back of the book, there's a hint that talks about adding up a bunch of inequalities together. So here I have these 30 numbers wrapped around a circle here. Now, each of these 30 numbers are the numbers 1 through 30, but we don't know which number is which. They're all different numbers, and they're all numbers from 1 to 30, but we just don't know what the order is. Now, because we don't know what the order of the numbers are, I labeled each number according to their position around the circle. I picked an X1, and then I went around labeling each number X2, X3, X4, and so on, all the way up to X sub 30. So one of these X's is the number 1, one of these numbers is 2, one of these numbers is 3, all the way up to the number 30. Only one of these numbers is 30. So to prove this, we're going to create a proof by contradiction. So we're going to assume the negation of the thing that we want to prove. So we're going to assume something that's apparently false, and then will lead to a contradiction, thus proving that this assumption was false, which then proves that the statement we're trying to prove is actually true. So we're going to assume that the sum of any 3 successive integers is less than 45. Let's unpack what that means. That means that x1 plus x2 plus x3 is less than 45. It also means that x2 plus x3 plus x4 is also less than 45. It also means that x3 plus x4 plus x5 is less than 45, and so on, all the way to x sub 28 plus x sub 29 plus x sub 30 is less than 45. And we have 2 other inequalities to consider, which is the fact that 29, 30, and 1 sit next to each other, and 31 and 2 sit next to each other. So we have to consider those inequalities as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add all of these inequalities together. Now, if you notice, each of these x values here are counted exactly 3 times, including x sub 1, which is counted 3 times, and x sub 2, which is also counted. So if we add up all of these inequalities together, we'll be counting each x sub I exactly 3 times. So on the left-hand side of this inequality, we'll have 3 times the sum from I equals 1 to 30 of x sub I. On the right-hand side of this inequality, we're adding 45 a bunch of times. How many times are we adding 45? Well, if you notice, we start from x1 and we go all the way up to x sub 30. And so there are 30 inequalities that we're adding together, which means on the right-hand side, we're adding 30 copies of 45. Now we're getting closer to the contradiction. Now, if we consider this summation here, we're adding up all the x sub i's from x sub 1 all the way up to x sub 30. But this is just the same thing as adding up the numbers from 1 to 30, but just in a different order. At the end of the day, though, if we add up the same numbers in a different order, it's still the same summation. So I can rewrite this as 3 times the summation from I equals 1 to 30 of just I, which is just 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. These two summations are the same summation, but in different order. The benefit of doing this is that we have a formula for this summation. We just need to plug 30 into the formula, which is just that number 30 times 31, which is 1 larger than 30, and then all divided by 2. Now, 30 times 45 is 1,300. But the left-hand side simplifies to 1,395. So we've essentially concluded that 1,395 is somehow less than 1,350. And that is a contradiction. So whenever we reach a contradiction in a proof by contradiction, we have to go all the way back up to our assumption. That means our assumption must be false, that the sum of any 3 successive integers is less than 45 is false. Now, the negation of a universally quantified statement is existential, meaning that the negation of this is that there must be 3 successive integers whose sum is at least 45. This is an existential claim about just three successive not all instances of three successive integers, just at least one example of three successive integers whose sum is at least 45. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.